It's been a long time. So.
We will continue with Dr. Ron Paul, Congressman Ron Paul, presidential candidate here in the middle of Iowa. You're listening to 1040 WHO Radio, and we're also simulcasting on C-SPAN here this morning. Mr. Cooper is going to update us on our farm markets. We'll reconvene in just a moment at 1040 WHO. Okay, now we're back with our C-SPAN viewers. I can see that kind of an emotional effect on you.
Yeah, it did. Well, because it's sort of something out of the past.
You're not given to Oprah moments. You almost had one, didn't you?
Well, it was sort of touching thinking about, you know, it's sort of one of these things where sometimes you get banged over the head mercilessly, and you think, oh boy, you know, they're making me sound like I'm a terrible person. But I keep telling myself, well, first off, you've invited this problem by being involved in politics. The other thing is I work on, you know, over the years, you know, and I know you remember there were times when I'd vote by myself, you know, and trying to make these points. But I keep telling myself truth wins out. Truth wins out in the end. And I think if I can make mistakes, but if I'm telling the truth, eventually truth comes around, you know, whether it's sound money or the foreign policy or whatever. If you honestly believe it's the truth, and I think you'll eventually win. And in some ways, I think we're starting to win some of these fights right now, and the people are starting to listen because our country is in such dire trouble.
It's interesting that, you know, because of YouTube and the video and the modern technology has so changed the way politics is done. There's no place for anybody to hide anymore. You can't utter a word without having somebody record it, and you can't deliver one message to one group of people and then go across town and deliver the opposite message anymore and get away with it. You have to be consistent. There's no place to hide. Now, I was doing some research, and I came across a video that you did on the old Morton Downey show.
Oh, do you have to talk about Morton Downey?
And I was stunned to watch him get in your face and blow smoke in your face and called you every name in the book, and you just sat there taking this stuff. And it goes into what Michelle Bachmann said during the last hour. If you elect Ron Paul, you're going to have legalized heroin. And so how do you deal with those issues?
Well, that's what we had before 1914, and the country survived. But it wasn't legalized in the sense that there were no restrictions. They were just put on by the states. So it's a different approach. Alcohol is a very, very dangerous drug, and they tried prohibition. It was a terrible decade.
Right.
They still drank. The country drank, and they drank bad liquor at times, and people got sick from it. And finally, conventional wisdom, the status quo said, well, we like alcohol, but we don't like marijuana, so we have to imprison people who are on marijuana. Now, what happened after 1914, there were all different reasons why they wanted to make them legal. It gave more power to the medical profession, but for some reason or other, they decided that everything except alcohol would be a crime rather than a disease. Today, we treat alcoholism as a disease. But if you're hooked on another drug, then you're a criminal. I don't think it solves a bit of the problem. It hasn't worked. We spent trillions of dollars on this. It undermines our personal liberties. We have these break-down doors in the wrong apartments, and people get killed over these things. And the tragedy we have on our southern border has a lot to do with drugs. 45,000 people have died on our borders in recent years.
Well, some people also misunderstand part of the libertarian message. Well, the first half is you have freedom to be stupid. But the other half is the rest of us shouldn't have to pay your bills.
Yeah.
So you let people get total freedom, but you take away the safety net, and so you don't go around catching people. Should I grab one here? Or we have just 1 minute? Okay. All right. We're coming down in a countdown. We're simulcasting on CNN here. I checked that C-SPAN here this morning. I didn't mean to scare anybody. We're talking with Congressman Ron Paul. Dr. Paul is here in the studios, and lots of us are eager to ask him a bunch of questions. Before we do anything else, and I promise, though, those of you who are on the line, I'll get to you here in just a second. As you well know, proxies for other candidates are all over the place, and one of them that was a proxy for Newt Gingrich the other day said something, and I considered it a personal attack against you. So I would like to give you the opportunity to respond, if that's okay. It wasn't just that he disagreed with your policies. It was an attack on your integrity. And this Congressman, former Congressman Greg Gansky, who is here, and he's proxying for Newt today. And here's what he said.
Ron is accusing the Speaker of being a hypocrite. I mean, that's how he ends this last ad. Well, look, when I was in Congress with Ron, he would put in hundreds of millions of dollars of appropriations requests, earmarks, okay? And then he would sit on the floor, and he would wait until the vote was certain that his earmarks would be funded, and then he would put his card in the slot and vote no, so that he could then say with purity, okay, I don't vote for earmarks. But there's this hundreds of millions of requests that were honored by Republican appropriators, but then, you know, he doesn't complete the deal.
He'd vote against the budget.
He'd vote against his own earmarks, so, knowing that they were going to pass, so that he was going to get it so he could then have his cake and eat it too.
All right, respond any way you'd like.
It's amazing how people change when they become spokesmen for other people. Greg has always been a friend, a fellow physician, and we were good friends in the Congress, but now, of course, you know, there's he's sort of in an attack mode. But he's completely wrong. I don't know how it's polite to say that people are, you know, doing a little bit more than just being wrong. He's completely...
Here in Iowa, we just say they're full of shinola.
Yeah, well, that's not too bad. but the thing of it is, I think this is probably big. But let me tell you, this is important because I take on a lot of people on the earmarks. Now, he's completely wrong, and I don't know whether he does it deliberately or not, but everybody knows I vote no, and I'm the first one up there, and I vote no on every appropriation bill since I've been there. So I've never voted for an earmark.
So it's sort of your default position.
No, it isn't that I ask for it. If it gets passed, then I vote for it. That is just gobbledygook. But on the other hand, I do support the principle of Congress earmarking. I call it designation. Not only do I think it's right to do that, I think every penny should be designated. They don't call these guys that, you know, are harping on me about earmarking. If you had an earmark for an embassy in Baghdad or an airplane that's being built in their district, that's not considered an earmark. Earmarks are usually what you make requests. People come because they take our money from our districts, they take our money for, you know, for highway funds, and they're supposed to give it back for our highway fund. And you just have a request for a highway. You mark it down and you send it in. It's sort of a routine thing. You never lobbied. I just said, they have a right to request some of their money back. But Congress, if they vote down an earmark, you don't save a penny. What happens is that money goes to the executive branch. The executive branch then decides. Then you have to crawl to the executive branch and say, hey, can I have some of my money back to build a highway in my district? Okay, I'll do that as long as you vote for this weapon system that we don't need so we can support the military-industrial complex. Then it's a big trade-off. So no, every penny should be designated by the Congress. And right now, of course, money flows to the executive branch. Obama didn't come and ask for money to invade or get involved in Libya, and he's right now, the plans are being made to go into Syria. He's probably already very much involved. They didn't ask for a designation there. That is the same principle, but Congress should act on their own responsibilities and not deliver these powers to the executive branch.
Let's talk to some folks, and this is Julio, or Julio.
Julio, yes. I'm here in Chicago. Congressman Paul, is always great to speak with you. Just a quick comment. I studied broadcasting in college at Western Illinois University in Macomb, and just to see the lack of journalistic integrity from, you know, small-time bloggers like in Illinois, Warner Todd Hudson calling Ron Paul supporters racist and Jew haters, to Chris Wallace of Fox News to say that if Ron Paul were to win the Iowa caucuses, it would mean nothing. I think that I hope people truly do their own research, turn off the TV, and do their own research on candidates, because it's clear just by the way they've been attacking you, Congressman Paul, that there's no journalistic integrity through the media. Two quick questions. I'll be brief. Number one, in terms of the economic war, the currency war, I'm 22 years old. I'm already investing in physical silver, and I think that I did research on John F. Kennedy's Executive Order 1110, and, I hear when you talk about going back to the gold standard, well, people look at the price of gold per ounce, over $1,500, $1,600, over $1,700, silver at $30 an ounce. How important, how quickly can we get our currency back to where it once was by going back to a gold standard?
All right, good.
Okay. You can't do it very quickly, and you can't do it at all unless the people change their minds about what the role of government ought to be. They have to have respect for the Constitution. The law says you can use only gold and silver as legal tender. You cannot maintain the welfare state, and you cannot police the world, because that requires a lot of money, more money than what we have. We can't tax the people to pay for it. Soon people won't loan us money. Matter of fact, they don't, and that's why we have to print it. So the people's minds and attitudes have to change. That's why I talk so much about the purpose of government as protecting of liberty, but not to do these other things. But if we did these things, and this is where I'm encouraged, because a lot of people are joining me, the young people are recognizing that they're better off if government would be limited, and if under those cases we could restore a gold standard. We did it once after the Civil War. We were off gold from 1861 to 1878, and there was a 3-year transition period from 75 to 78, and it worked. But we weren't running up deficits like this. We weren't printing money. They quit printing the greenbacks. They had greenbacks then, and that's why they had to go off the gold standard. So it can be done, but instead of thinking, can we wave a wand and do it immediately, all I want to do is legalize the Constitution and compete with the paper currency. I think that would take care of itself, because people then would give up on the paper.
This is not a new position for Dr. Paul. He's been saying this for a long time. In fact, I think it was in the 80s you were involved in a gold commission, and you wrote a book, a very fine history on the history of gold and gold currency and real money in this country. It still is a good primer on our own history. Most of us were never taught. It's called, I recommend it highly, it's called A Case for Gold. Little paperback. You can get up there and inform yourself on this. Thank you for your call, sir. This is Sharon. Good morning, Sharon.
Good morning.
Oops, you got to put him back on. I think we got a little bit of feedback. That's all right. We got to